Welcome to the webinar, Exercise in MS with Susan Kushner, MSPT and Programs Consultant for CanDo MS. My name is Scott Klein, Programs Manager at CanDo MS. Live Fully, Live Well is a wellness program for people with MS and their support partners. Managing your health and wellness is an integral part of living well with MS. Live Fully, Live Well is a comprehensive program for CanDo MS and the National MS Society, designed for people with MS and their support partners. Live Fully, Live Well covers the topics affecting the whole family living with MS in order to strengthen relationships, increase understanding, and promote improved health and improved health and quality of life for the person with MS and their support partners. This program helps people living with MS and their support partners move from education to action. There are 3 aspects to this program: 6 one-day in-person programs around the country, 7 web-based videos introducing wellness topics, and 14 webinars covering the 7 topics from the web-based videos, which is what you're participating in tonight. All 3 areas of this program can be integrated together or enjoyed separately to provide you with the resources, knowledge, and tools to create a personalized wellness plan. This program is made possible by MS Active Source, which is sponsored by Biogen and Elan Pharmaceuticals. As I mentioned before, Live Fully, Live Well is a collaborative program between CanDo MS and the National MS Society. The vision of the National MS Society is a world free of MS. The Society helps people affected by MS by funding cutting-edge research, driving change through advocacy, facilitating professional education, and providing programs and services that help people with MS and their families move forward. CanDo MS is an innovative provider of lifestyle empowerment programs for people with MS and their support partners. We're the start of a whole new way of thinking about and living with MS. CanDo MS empowers people to move beyond their MS by giving them the knowledge, skills, tools, and confidence to adopt healthy lifestyle behaviors, actively co-manage their disease, and live their fully best lives. So a few housekeeping items before we get started tonight. Sue will address all of the questions at the end of the presentation, but we encourage questions and comments throughout the presentation. So to ask a question, type in your question in the chat feature located on the left side of your computer screen. To submit a question, type in the small box that says chat. Also, many of you submitted questions when you registered, and Sue will try to address those throughout her presentation. This presentation is being recorded and will be archived on CanDo MS's website. You can view this presentation again or check out other Live Fully, Live Well archived webinars. For those of you who are attending live tonight, you will receive an email tomorrow with copies of this PowerPoint presentation. So we have a great speaker lined up for us tonight. Sue Kushner, MSPT, has been a physical therapist for 28 years. She graduated from the University of Pittsburgh undergrad PT school at Columbia University. She's currently finishing her PhD in exercise physiology at the University of Pittsburgh. Sue has been with CanDo MS program for 23 years. She has been on the faculty at Slippery Rock University for 21 years in the Graduate School of Physical Therapy. She works clinically doing home care PT. Sue has also volunteered with the National MS Society for 22 years, both at the local and national level. This includes community work, volunteer speaking, treating patients, writing, and editing. In 2006, Sue was awarded the Volunteer of the Year by the National MS Society. She is on the editorial board for Momentum Magazine, the client publication of the National MS Society. So before we get started tonight, I'm going to go ahead and post up a poll on the screen. Let's do a survey to see who's on the call with us. So please tell us about yourself. Are you a person living with MS? Are you a support partner? Are you a healthcare professional or other? So we'll give it just a minute or two for people to plug in their answers. Okay, and it looks like about 92% of us are people living with MS, about 8% support partners, and another about 5% healthcare professionals. So that being said, we'll go ahead and hand it over to Sue.
Thank you, Scott, and welcome to everybody in places far and wide. I hope that you get a lot out of this tonight. It's a little bit different than being live with you, but it's from the comfort of your home or office, and hopefully very convenient for you. And I am available towards the end of the program. I will leave some time for questions. I want to briefly go over the objectives that are stated on your screen of the purpose for the talk tonight. I want to briefly review the benefits of exercise related to multiple sclerosis. I want to help you understand the role of exercise in your individual program and the overall importance of exercise. I also would like to touch on management of MS symptoms through exercise. And I want to give examples of exercises and an exercise program that is specific for MS symptoms. Exercise and you. What I strongly like to emphasize to everybody is that there is some sort of activity that is achievable for everybody. If you don't believe me, you can type in your specific situation, and chances are I will find something in my bag of tricks that everybody can do. And I think everybody knows that the symptoms of MS are highly variable. Some folks are still running, doing extreme biking, skiing, etc. Some folks have had to scale down their exercise program and really modify it. On the other hand, some folks that I have seen through the years were not very active before their MS, and the MS diagnosis was sort of a kick in the butt, so to speak, and they went from being non-exercisers to very faithful religious exercisers. But the key is there is something that each and every person can do. The key to success is being consistent with your exercise program. Consistency can be obtained when a program meets your specific needs, and I will give some suggestions for finding what does work for you. And again, keep in mind if it works, it works. If it works for you, it's working. I just want to touch a little bit on cardiac rehabilitation through the ages. In the 60s, when attention started to be paid to cardiac rehab, the basic philosophy was, oh my goodness, lie down, you've had a heart attack. Do not do anything, rest, and you may get worse from here. I think by this point in time, everybody knows that over the past 50 years, it has been shown how helpful exercise can be no matter what type of physical ailment you've had. Physical inactivity is a primary risk factor for cardiac disease, and exercise is necessary for all persons. Healthy, not so healthy, whatever type of pathology, exercise still needs to play an important role in your daily functioning. Regarding exercise and multiple sclerosis, again, things have changed about 180 degrees from when MS first was getting a lot of attention. In the 50s, the only thing that was thought to help MS at all was temperature control. Basically, patients were told, don't do anything, save what you have. Like you had only a limited amount of muscle strength and endurance and cardiovascular fitness, and you didn't want to use that up. Well, through research studies, particularly in clinical settings, we found, especially in 1987, Dr. Randy Shapiro and some other folks, they found that exercise did not make MS worse. In fact, into the next decade, Jack Pettijohn from Utah and a number of other people did various studies showing that not only does exercise not make MS worse, it can make things much better. I'm not saying that MS would cure exercise or combat exercise, but it will make the person better physically and more healthy. In the last couple years, there's been a lot of attention being paid to aerobic fitness and exercise and cognitive or brain health. And that's a very new, very interesting area of study, particularly related to MS. Some benefits of exercise and MS, and believe me, there are many, many studies at the physiological level that can be found. I don't think it's necessary for me to spend time going over that right now. I want to make this a very practical for you sort of talk tonight. But just some benefits of exercise can be nerve growth factors may be beneficial in MS. Regarding lesions in MS, can exercise prevent new lesions from occurring? There are current studies showing that yes, this may be possible. There are some studies underway that are questioning, can exercise repair existing lesions? The jury's still out on that. Then for non-lesioned areas regarding neurotransmission, can function be improved in these non-lesion areas? And overall, can exercise modify the course of multiple sclerosis? There was a very good webinar done by a colleague from the Can Do MS program, Mandy Rohrig, in September of 2010. And that is archived, and I would strongly recommend to take a look at her talk on exercise and MS also. Same title, but different animal for sure. I just like to throw in one little comic. I hope you're all chuckling there. I can't hear it, but I am. But I think this just shows that, you know, what some people think of exercise. And now I would just like to ask a poll. How often do you exercise? Regularly, occasionally, sporadically, or not at all? And I'll just give that 30 or 40 seconds to be answered. A pretty good group overall. Decent, regular exercisers. We will not put a star next to the people's name who registered who do not exercise at all, but you know who you are, so I'm here to change you. So moving right along, as I mentioned already regarding exercise and cognition, higher physical fitness levels can enhance cognition and change neuroplasticity in patients with MS. And this is a very important part of clinical research currently. And it's very exciting and it's very promising. There has been shown to be reduced depression and anger at 5 and 10 weeks in an exercise program. It has been shown that there are improvements in social interaction, emotional behavior, and management of home situations where exercise is concerned. I just want to touch upon summarize a Surgeon General's report, and this is for exercise overall, not necessarily geared towards MS, but so much of what we preach regarding exercise is pertinent to folks with MS and the general population. Exercise need not be strenuous to achieve health benefits. You really do not need to think that you have to drag your sorry soul to the gym, beat yourself to death, and sweat a bucket of water each and every day. It need not be miserable. It can be moderate activity, it should be enjoyable, and it should be attainable. Significant health benefits are obtained through greater amounts of physical activity. Previously sedentary persons should start slowly and receive clearance from their MD, the primary care physician, family practice doc, whatever. Persons with disabilities are less likely to engage in regular moderate physical activity than those without disabilities. But those folks have similar needs to promote health and prevent unnecessary disease. And I think everybody probably in the audience realizes, hey, it may be harder, it may be a little bit harder, it may be much harder to get yourself to exercise depending on your level of disability, but the need is still there. In fact, the need may be greater for you than for somebody else, or the need may be greater than it ever had been for you specifically. Social support from family and friends has been consistently and positively related to regular physical activity. As Scott had mentioned, I've been doing work with Can Do MS for 21 or 2 years. A big portion of our program is for the support partners or significant others that are involved in your lives. Those folks can be of just paramount importance in helping to motivate the person with MS. It can be a very social activity, and it's just something that the person who is the support partner has a pretty big role in helping motivate the person with MS. Back to the Surgeon General's report, there's reduced risk of coronary heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, and colon cancer with regular exercise. Exercise can help persons with chronic debilitating conditions to improve muscle strength and stamina, can reduce anxiety, depression, improve mood, and just promote a general sense of well-being. And what I'd like to emphasize where MS is concerned is that exercise is one area that you do have control over. A lot of people find that there are various aspects of their life that they lose some control over, lose all control over, or their perception may be that they just have no control of their lives. Very frustrating concept to live with. Exercise is something that you can control. And I'm not saying that, again, if you were a very high-level athlete and you've had to ramp it down a little bit, that may be frustrating, but it's still an area where you do have control over your physical well-being to some extent. Keep in mind that folks with MS have the same risk factors of overall health as anybody else does, with or without MS, with or without any other diseases. So just think that there's no get-out-of-jail-free card with MS. You're at the same risk as everybody else for lifestyle-type diseases. And goodness knows, I think we know enough in this country to know that we are in pretty sorry shape. General, health. Leading causes of death and compromised health, heart disease, and again, this is for everybody. Cancers, strokes, chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, accidents, diabetes, and we're coming into the pneumonia and flu season. Now, getting back to you, and this is about you. You need to think for your exercise considerations, what do you like to do? What do you really like to do activity-wise? What brings you, just joy and pleasure? What really flips your switch? What did you like to do in the past? Are you still able to do those activities? Or have you had to modify them? Think about, for you again, what is realistic? If I am your physical therapist and see you in your hometown and you love to swim, you used to swim laps, you love to do aquatic exercises, but you moved to the country and there is no pool for 37 miles, that's not going to be a realistic activity for you any longer. So you really need to do, again, what is attainable and what is achievable for your situation and your living environment. Do you prefer to work out at home in the privacy of a family room where you're watching TV? Do you like to go to a gym? Do you get energy from exercising at a YMCA? And is it your social outlet, seeing people you know? Do you like to use a swimming pool? Is there one available? I always caution people, make sure you're not going to a YMCA or a hospital that has a swimming pool that is for persons with arthritis. Those are the really warm pools. They are not good for folks with MS. You want to think about quite cool water. Water that is too warm can really wipe you out. Again, that has to do with the temperature control. What type of equipment do you need for the type of exercise that you like to do? Or is any equipment needed? When I am working with someone to give them an exercise program that they can be independent with, I try not to have them purchase large objects or spend lots of money for home exercise equipment. Goodness knows across this country how many $1,500 treadmills are in basements with laundry hanging on them. So you want to think about, what simple type of equipment do you need if you do want to work out at home. We recommend things like TheraBand, which is an elastic, stretchy band that gives you resistance, a Swiss ball that might be $25, not a lot of money. Again, do you like to do something by yourself? Do you like to go with one other person or be in a class? Personally, I used to like to work out only alone, and in the last 10 years or so, with everything else going on in my life, I like to go to a class, shut my brain off, and just follow the leader. I don't have to think about what I'm doing at all. So again, what works for you? Other factors to consider. You really want to vary activities. This helps to prevent boredom and burnout. And also as a PT, we're looking to help prevent overuse injuries. We don't want any chronic orthopedic injuries to develop. Cross-training is best if possible. And I think everybody knows what cross-training is. It's doing a variety of activities on a regular basis. So you're kind of cycling through a routine, different days, different weeks. You may want to do aerobic activities one day, strength training the next day, a yoga class the third day, and say you do like to ride a bicycle, a stationary bicycle. You might want to mix that up with a rowing machine to include upper body strengthening. But again, just a variety is best if possible. Keep in mind also, I'm not saying that you need to carve out 45 to 60 minutes each and every day of the year to stay healthy. If you can, great, more power to you. But keep in mind that something is better than nothing. You can even break up your exercise routine into small increments during the day if needed. You can do 10 or 15 minutes in the morning, 10 or 15 minutes maybe of walking or something at lunchtime, and a little bit more in the evening. And before you know it, you have 30 or 45 minutes accrued during the day. I am putting in a plug for my profession because I think it's extremely important for persons with MS to get a referral from their physician to see a physical therapist. Some states you don't even need a referral, but that varies state to state. But the bottom line is consulting a physical therapist, and a physical therapist who is knowledgeable about multiple sclerosis. There's all types of physical therapists, ones who work with burns and pediatrics and sports medicine, but you really need to have somebody that understands the disease of MS and the possible progressions and the nuances of the disease, how highly variable it is person to person, also how highly variable it can be day to day, week to week, and month to month. A lot of times as a physical therapist, we're not going to be giving you any really unique tricks of the trade due to your MS. We still may be using similar exercises that I might give somebody with a back injury or after a stroke. But the main thing that the physical therapist needs to work with you is in the context of the disease. And again, just understanding the nuances of MS is extremely important for a good physical therapist to work with you. Other factors to consider for you personally. Think of training for the game of life. This is going to be a lifelong commitment, which, anything lifelong is overwhelming. What you want to think about, though, is just taking little baby steps. You're going to work out for today. Tomorrow you're going to wake up and say, I'm going to work out just for today. I love to work out, but if I woke up every morning and thought, I have to work out every day for the rest of my life, it would be totally overwhelming, and I may never get out of bed, and I may never exercise again. But again, thinking of small, manageable chunks is very helpful. Other factors also to consider: what time of day works best for you? Morning, afternoon, evening. A lot of folks experience tremendous fatigue as the day goes on with what's called lassitude, or an overwhelming fatigue towards the late afternoon or evening. Obviously, you want to avoid this time of day for exercise. And keep in mind that everything counts. Dancing around your house, square dancing, ballroom dancing, yard work, house cleaning, if you're coaching your kids' soccer team, walking the hallways at work, stairs up and down them all day. Everything really can add up in little bits and pieces to help you get exercise. We like to emphasize the saying, no brain, no gain. That is not, that's not what we want to emphasize with folks with MS. We like to add no pain, no gain, no brain. You do not want to work to the point of fatiguing yourself, overstressing the body, or plain and simple, not causing yourself any pain. Other factors also to consider: the physical therapy can be an adjunct to your program. You may need to update your program from time to time based on your progress, getting stronger, having an exacerbation. And an infection can often really zap somebody for a while. A urinary tract infection, the flu, whatever. So periodic visits to the physical therapist may be necessary. And again, keep in mind, you are in control. You are the central command of your program. The physical therapist, or if you use a trainer, or your support partner, they're all there to help you, but you need to be dedicated. Nobody else can do the exercises for you. Everyone wishes there were a pill or a passive machine that can strengthen you. That has yet to happen. You also need to give appropriate feedback to your physical therapist and possibly your support partner for what is working, what is not working. Are we going too hard on you? Are we going too easy on you? So again, that feedback must come from you, because we cannot read your mind. We cannot read your body. Keep in mind with exercise that safety is a tremendous consideration. You need to make sure that you stay hydrated and cool. Drink water. Use a fan that is on you. There are some stationary bikes by Schwinn, the big bicycle company. They're called Schwinn Airdynes, and the front pedal has a big fan in it. So as you're pedaling, the fan is blowing on you and keeping cool. I think everybody knows that increased temperatures and too much heat can be very detrimental to MS. You want to think of exercising in air conditioning or at a cooler time of day, depending on where you live. I mentioned already, if you're using a swimming pool, it must be a cool pool where clothing that absorbs sweat or reflects sunlight in a hot climate. Make sure that you have good, safe, supportive footwear. That is extremely important. I also always caution people to be aware of balance. A lot of folks with MS have balance based on any number of problems. It can be vestibular problems, inner ear problems with their balance. It can be from decreased vision. Balance problems may come from a lack of proper sensation on the bottom of the feet. That could be neuropathy or problems with what we call kinesthetic awareness or proprioception. Basically, someone may just not know where their foot is on the ground, or if you're hiking, you don't want to risk twisting an ankle on a big rock just because you didn't feel it. You'll want to use hiking sticks, canes, whatever. Also be very cautious with your balance when you are very fatigued or just in general having a bad day. That's when accidents and injuries are likely to occur. And you really want to prevent any type of fall, broken ankle or broken wrist or elbow. That can set you back, 4, 6, or 8 weeks if you have to be casted and then, have physical therapy for an orthopedic problem. So really think about safety in what activities you are doing. And I mentioned before, be aware of general orthopedic problems and injuries that would occur with anybody. I mentioned already the sensory problems. Is your foot placement safe and accurate? Problems with vision, depth perception, blurry vision. If you have dizzy spells, be very, very cautious of that when you are exercising or when you're getting on or off a piece of equipment. Do fast movements impede your balance? Be aware of that. So I want to do another little poll here. What area of exercise do you feel you need to improve upon most? And I break them down into strengthening, stretching, balance and coordination, or aerobic activity. I probably should have put all of the above too, but we'll leave it at those 4. So it's looking at mostly strengthening and balance and coordination activities. And balance and coordination activities, that's often an area where without input from a physical therapist, someone may scratch their head and think, yeah, I know I have problems in this area, but how do I improve upon them? And I will get to that shortly. Personally and in the context of the Can-Do MS programs, we like to break exercise down into these categories: strengthening, stretching or maintaining or increasing flexibility. Sometimes you'll hear us speak of it as range of motion, balance and coordination activities, and aerobic activities or aerobic fitness levels. Strengthening. You really do need to have your strength assessed accurately by a physical therapist. You may not have weakness the same as somebody else who's a couch potato and just has weak muscles because they haven't done anything. You may have weakness due to the problems related to the MS, the problems with neurotransmission. The brain is not telling the muscle exactly what to do and why to do it. So once we properly identify what type of strength you are lacking, we're able to more accurately give you ideas for how to combat that and work on strengthening. Also keep in mind that with strengthening, we don't always want to get rid of tone or spasticity. I think everybody knows what increased tone or spasticity is. A lot of you may have some problems with tone, and that can interfere with strength. It can mask weakness. You may not have a lot of muscle strength in some of your lower leg muscles, but increased tone and spasticity will make you think that you do. The thing is, the physical therapist, the patient, and their physician all have to really play around with spasticity related to function. What I mean by that is if you are on baclofen or if it is suggested that you need a baclofen pump, we all 3 of us, again, patient, PT, physician, we have to be careful that when we take away the spasticity, that you're not left with just a very weak muscle or muscle group and that you're not going to be able to do what you were able to do with some spasticity. So what I'm saying is that to some extent spasticity can be beneficial. And it often takes a lot of time and a lot of tweaking with the medications to get the spasticity reduced just enough that it doesn't interfere as much with function, but not so much that it takes away any strength that the person has. So first, the area of weakness, as I mentioned, must be properly identified along with the cause of the weakness. Then we have to work on strengthening. Options for general strengthening: use of free weights. That can be in a gym setting. It can be in your home setting. Weight machines, usually at a gym. I've mentioned a Swiss ball or physio ball. That thing is excellent. Like I said, very inexpensive, extremely useful, and we use it in pretty much in all of the categories that I mentioned: strengthening, flexibility, balance and coordination, and aerobic activities. Just some small ankle weights, wrist weights are very helpful. Aquatic exercises can be very helpful for strengthening. I think everybody knows when you're in the water, if you're moving very gently and slowly through the water, you're not getting much resistance. If you're trying to plow through water like you would on a track, you're going to get a lot of resistance from the water. Hence, you're going to be getting some strengthening benefits also. Using DVDs or TV programs to follow for strengthening exercises is a wonderful way to easily get some exercises to follow. Usually the MS Society will have excellent lending libraries for high-level strengthening all the way to wheelchair and mat exercises that can be done. Nowadays, too, there's quite a bit on the Internet and exercise programs on TV during the day that you can follow. Also, with the help of the PT, you'll need to figure out, do you need overall, whole body strengthening or focus on specific areas? The last 10 years or so, there's been a real emphasis on keeping the core of the body, the trunk, very strong. It's extremely important to keep the abdominal and back muscles properly strengthened. General guidelines for strengthening: I like to suggest 2 to 3 times a week. 2 is probably more realistic. You will want to increase repetitions and the weights that you're using as tolerated. Again, possibly with the help of a physical therapist or a trainer at the Y or the gym that you go to. As anything, you want to vary the exercises, work the entire body usually. Incorporate upper extremities, lower extremities, and again, as I mentioned, the core body muscles. I really like to emphasize to everybody that we do so much sitting at our desk in a car watching TV. The front of our body, which is considered our flexors, gets very overstretched. I think everybody knows what forward head is. When you're sitting and your head hangs forward over your shoulders, your posture becomes poor. As a result, most of our back muscles become weak and overstretched. Those are called your extensors. So I really like to emphasize for folks to do twice as many repetitions or sets for the back muscles and your hamstrings, which are your back leg muscles, and your gluteal muscles, which are your butt muscles. 2 to 1 versus the front of the body's muscles. So if you're doing some upper back strengthening exercises, do twice as many sets as you would for the chest muscles, like a fly or bicep curl. So that's just one little rule of thumb that I really like to emphasize for everybody. Stretching or flexibility, or like I said, this is sometimes you'll hear us call it range of motion exercises. Again, the physical therapist can help you identify tight areas and the cause of tightness. Is it postural? Is it because your wheelchair doesn't fit properly? Is it because you're struggling with the cane and you might need a walker, or whatever the reason is for the tight areas and the cause. Gait and functional movement can be greatly compromised by tightness and lack of range of motion. Sometimes when we just do a long series of stretching over a number of weeks with somebody and have them do stretching on their own, boy, their gait and just their overall function improves tremendously. We need to determine if the stretches should be done actively, meaning you doing the stretches all by yourself, or passively, meaning somebody else doing them for you as you relax the body part, or a little mix, what we call active assistive range of motion. And it very much depends on what you are able to do. You may not be able to stretch your deep hip muscles and your hamstrings because you don't have enough strength to lift the leg and stretch. So that's an area where you may need a physical therapist, a support partner to do some stretching with you and for you. Some options for stretching. This is one area where I really like to emphasize doing a little bit each and every day. You want to stretch the upper extremities, again, particularly the front chest muscles and what we call the pectoral muscles. You want to stretch the neck, the trunk, the back, the lower extremities. And there's a variety of ways to work on stretching. Personally, I love yoga. I love to just preach the benefits of yoga to everybody. And again, there's a wide range of types of yoga to do and a wide range of how aggressive it may or may not be. Lots of DVDs and videos for you to follow along with, again, so you can kind of shut your brain off and just follow. I live in the Pittsburgh area, and our Allegheny County chapter of the National MS Society is fantastic. They have a great lending library. They sponsor some yoga classes that are specifically for folks with MS. So you need to seek out that kind of help if you're interested in yoga. And if you've never tried it, give it a try. It's just wonderful for the body. It's wonderful for the mind. Tai Chi is a form of balance exercises, smooth flowing movements, also excellent for stretching and for the balance and coordination area. I keep bringing up with every category this great thing called a Swiss ball that there's probably 200 different exercises for all of the 4 categories that I talk about that can be done on a Swiss ball. It's just a wonderful little piece of equipment, and it's also very inexpensive, and it's fun. If you've ever done anything on a Swiss ball, it can be really enjoyable. You don't necessarily need to be a swimmer at all to benefit from use of a swimming pool. You can use aquatic programs and classes for wonderful stretching. There's a type of exercise called Pilates, which is also very helpful. Again, this can be done in the privacy of your home following DVDs. You can go to a class. Some folks think of Pilates only as the type where you're using these big tables, they're big pieces of equipment called reformer tables, but there's a lot of Pilates DVDs and classes that are just done on a mat, a yoga mat on your bed, whatever. So like yoga, there's a huge range of Pilates exercises that can be done. Some general guidelines for stretching, as I mentioned before, do some each and every day. Concentrate on tight areas. Push yourself just to a gentle feeling of stretch. That's fine. Pain is not. Remember the no pain, no gain equals no brain. Use assistance if needed, another person, a band, a belt, a rope, a TheraBand, a machine, whatever can help you to do your stretches properly. Moving to the area of balance and coordination, and again I said this can be a kind of a tricky area to improve upon. First, with the help of a physical therapist, the problem area or areas must be identified and what's causing the lack of balance and coordination. I already mentioned before how important this area is for maintaining safety, not only while you're exercising, but while you're carrying on with all your ADLs, activities of daily living, everything you need to do each and every day. Need to prevent falls, as I mentioned before. You need to be assessed for use of a proper assistive device if you need one or if you do not need one. But again, a physical therapist can help you there. Orthotics are braces such as an ankle-foot brace or ankle-foot orthosis, a hip brace. OTs have some wonderful braces for the wrist and hands. So just getting, again, proper assessments for what is needed to help you. And some ideas for improving upon the areas of balance and coordination. Again, gee, look, that Swiss ball pops up again and again and again. Again, aquatic activities are wonderful. The water can really challenge you in the area of balance and coordination. If you're walking in the water, you're getting little perturbations of the water hitting at you from every angle, and you're having to work on your balance. Again, you don't have to go in to swim laps. Just walking in the water, forwards, sideways, backwards is very important. I really like to emphasize to people that you need to work your body in 360 degrees. That's how we live. Most people just think about, we're just walking, just moving forward. If you're in the grocery store doing your Thanksgiving shopping and someone bumps you from the side and it pushes you sideways, you may not have moved sideways for a very long time, and you're likely to fall. If you practice moving in all directions, it's really going to help you. And again, aquatics is wonderful for that. I've had patients say to me that they would love to live their lives in 3 feet of water. If they're non-ambulatory, if they lived in water, they'd be able to walk all around their house. But I've yet to figure out how to do that, but at least exercising in the water is excellent. So I mentioned sideways walking, backwards walking on land and in the water. Balance activities on all fours, lifting one leg, opposite arm. Activities in high kneeling where you're just on your knees. If your knees can take it, maybe your hands on a chair to stay stable. There's something called a BAPS board, which you'll find in a clinical PT setting. It's not something I would tell you to go out and buy, but it helps with balance. And you may need to seek out a physical therapist who is certified or has experience in vestibular rehab if you really have some serious balance issues. Again, careful not to fall. You also want to think about identifying problem areas in the house and work environment, hazardous furniture or stairs, what type of shoes work best for you, flat leather shoes, tennis shoes. You want to think about carpeting. Do you do better with carpeting or do you do better with hardwood floors? Are there uneven surfaces in your house? And what type of weather are you dealing with when you go outside the home? Some general guidelines are 2 to 3 times a week. Again, varying activities, modifying as needed with the help of a physical therapist. The last category is the area of cardiovascular fitness or aerobic activities. One of the most important parts of your program. It's important for keeping the heart healthy, for weight control, for gaining energy. It helps prevent all of those awful things that occur from poor lifestyle, obesity, diabetes, cancer. As I mentioned before, you want to vary activities in this category to prevent boredom and overuse injuries. Find what you like, find what you're able to do, and what can be recreational for you. Do you like hiking? Do you like biking? Maybe you can get what's called a recumbent road bike where you're still able to get out, but you have 3 wheels and you're able to stay safe without thinking about falling over. You may prefer a partner for some of the recreational activities. These activities can be indoor, outdoor activities, activities that go nicely with the change in seasons. A lot of folks like to cross-country ski. That type of weather's up and coming, like it or not. You need to get the heart rate up and keep it up. With aerobic activities, you want to think about feeling as good 2 hours after the activity as you did before you started. Try not to take more than 2 days off in a row from aerobic activities unless you're really not feeling well. Options can be machines such as an elliptical machine, a stair climber, a treadmill, a rowing machine, something called an upper bike ergometer where it's like a wheel crank, like a bicycle pedals for your arms, cycling or spinning classes, walking, running, winter activities, wheelchair aerobics. I think I forgot to, I did have Swiss ball. Like I said, that comes up in every category. I love it. Aquatics, and again, not just lap swimming. Tai Chi, yoga, martial arts, DVDs, Pilates classes, dancing is fun, kettlebell classes, hiking. There is a variety. We will find something that you can do. 3 to 4 times a week is emphasized for aerobic activities. Definitely getting medical clearance to start. You want to start slowly if you have not been doing any type of aerobic activity. You want to build up to 20 to 30 minutes. You can even go up to 40, 45 eventually, including a 5-minute warm-up and cool-down period. I am about out of time so that we can leave some time for questions. I do want to emphasize that you can do it. You can do something and you can stick with it, and that certainly is the philosophy of the Can Do MS program. You can do it. So thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Sue. And we have a lot of great questions, so I will get to as many as I can in the amount of time we have left here. But I do have a few questions about heat, and so I wanted to address those. And how can you exercise without overheating? What are some good ways?
There's a variety of ways. As I mentioned earlier, you can work in a very air-conditioned environment. Pick a time of day where it's cool. You can stay hydrated with cool water, wear cool clothing. There's also vests that have a small amount of water threaded through them in little tubes. It's called a cooling vest, and that can help greatly. You put that on like a water ski vest. It's really thin, or a little, almost like a little beanie. A little hat can help there. Some folks like to keep a cold pack and put it on their wrist or their neck to keep their core body temperature down. And as I mentioned before, if you're going to be doing anything in a pool atmosphere, that pool should be cool. Do not go for those nice warm pools for the folks with arthritis, or stay out of hot tubs and steam rooms.
Great. And one participant just chatted in, hey, you might want to mention the Cooling Techniques webinar, which is archived on our website, www.mscando.org. So,
right, that's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah. Great. So what kinds of signs are you going to see if you're overdoing it on exercise?
There can be a variety of signs. Some of them can be acute, meaning during that exercise session, you may not feel well. You may get dizzy. Your vision may blur a little bit. You may start to feel very woozy, much more so than you think you should. When you've been regularly exercising, you're going to know how you should feel when you've pushed it a bit. You don't want to feel worse than you. I'm stumbling here a little bit. You don't want those very acute things to be happening to you. Extreme dryness of mouth, either profuse sweating or just a total stopping of sweating. That can be very detrimental and hazardous. In a more chronic scope, you know that you're overdoing it if you're starting to get some orthopedic problems, if your knees are bothering you, if your ankles are bothering you, if you're having swelling, if your back is bothering you. If you're lifting weights and you're still very sore more than 2 days after the day that you've lifted, you're overdoing it and you may need to decrease the weights and or the repetitions.
Great.
So those are just some, telltale signs of caution.
Okay, and just a few more questions here before we run out of time. How do you balance the need for strengthening while still remaining functional? Because it'll tend to wear you out after a while. So how do you balance that in your life?
Strengthening should not, quote, wear you out. You're not going to be lifting usually for an entire hour. 15, 20 to 30 minutes of lifting 2 times a week is going to give you some increase in muscle tone and strength, but certainly not wipe you out. You don't want to be doing, heavy deadlifting or grunting and groaning to the point that you can barely get the weight up to your shoulder in a bicep curl. It should be manageable. It should be comfortable, and strengthening should help energize you as time goes on. One thing that I forgot to say earlier regarding strengthening is muscle burns more fat at rest and sleeping and 24 hours a day than fat does. So if you're fairly toned, you're going to be burning more calories and be more efficient with your physiological aspects of your body than if you have much less muscle tone. So that's really important.
That's good to know. And a couple of questions about PTs, and I'm sure you're a great person to answer. So how do you find a good PT that knows about MS? Is there a website that you could direct people to?
I would start with talking to the local chapter of my National MS Society. They should have a data bank of folks that are, equipped to work with persons with MS. If there is nobody in your area, you need to ask around. You need to ask the neurologist. You need to ask PTs in various clinics. Ask other friends. Because it really is important. Just like you want to find a neurologist who deals with a lot of MS, maybe not exclusively, but a lot. Same with the PT.
Great. And so are there any exercises that MS patients shouldn't participate in?
Should not. Anything that is going to cause you harm over, again, an acute period of time or the long run, based on increasing body temperature too much, causing you orthopedic or overuse injuries, or risking your safety due to balance issues. But there's nothing I would say that a PT shouldn't do. I mean that a person with MS shouldn't do. I might not recommend jiu-jitsu or something where you're being flipped around on mats over someone's head and shoulders. But I'm sure there's a person in this country who has MS who still does jiu-jitsu. So I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough. And a real quick question here. Do you have a specific temperature that a swimming pool should be at, or at least below?
It should be, I think it should be below 83 degrees.
Okay.
And I really apologize if I am wrong on that. When you get in, it should feel cool. It does not need, you do not need to be a member of those polar bear clubs where you're going into the local river on New Year's morning. But just so that it's cool, and as you are expending energy, you should not begin to feel overheated or fatigued.
Great. And just a quick question about Swiss balls. Where do you recommend finding them, and how much should you expect spending on them?
Well, they can be found at Target, at Walmart. We use, through the Can Do MS program, we like to get them through a place called Fitball, Fitball. A woman named Joanne Posner-Mayer started the company. They import balls from Switzerland, hence the Swiss ball, and they are of excellent, excellent quality. But you can find them, Dick's Sporting Goods. I don't know what's in people's, local areas. I think Target and Walmart's are just about everywhere. Dunham's Sporting Goods. So you can find them there. And again, they're wonderful, they're fun, they're inexpensive.
Great. Well, thanks, Sue, and what a great presentation.
Thank you.
And a big thanks to all the participants who joined us for this webinar. The next Live Fully, Live Well webinar is on December 1st at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Time. The topic is Eating Well, Eating Easy with Denise Nowak, registered dietitian. You can register for this webinar on Can Do MS website, www.mscando.org. As soon as the presentation is over, you'll see a survey appear on your computer screen. Please take a moment to complete this survey and help us to continue improving our webinars. We value your feedback and input. Thanks again. This program was made possible by MS Active Source and sponsored by Biogen IDIC and Elan Pharmaceuticals. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Happy Thanksgiving.